The deadline has passed for Kentuckians to register to vote in the November election.
Now, state election officials are focusing their attention on educating those who are registered to vote. WKYT's Jessica Umbro sitting down with Kentucky Secretary of State Michael Adams about the next steps that you're encouraged to take before heading to the polls.
Voter registration in Kentucky for the November 2024 election is officially over. Now, Secretary of State Michael Adams tells me that the focus is on spreading the word about election information and accessibility.
People vote more in a presidential race because they feel like they know more about presidential candidates than they know about the governor or the attorney general or the senator.
Secretary of State Michael Adams says 24,000 new Kentucky voters registered this past September, compared to 54,000 in September of 2020.
My gut is that means the turnout will be a little bit lower than it was in 2020. We hit 60% in 2020. So at the moment, I'm thinking we're going to be in the mid-50s in our turnout.
Secretary Adams says that's still much higher than non-presidential election years. He says those numbers typically hover around just 40%. Last November, it was 38%.
That means you have a lot of people voting who haven't been voting in 4 years. They didn't vote in the Senate race. They didn't vote in the governor's race. They're low propensity people who don't know the rules, don't know the voting days, and so they're new voters for our purposes.
Adams says he's continuing to encourage people to vote during the 3 no-excuse absentee voting days to try to keep things running smoothly on November 5th.
Don't wait till the last day. The weather could not cooperate. There could be another hurricane. You could get a flat tire. Anything could happen.
Secretary Adams says that he wants voters to understand that there will be votes on the ballot that are nonpartisan, whether it's a local office without a party affiliation or a local ballot measure or constitutional amendments 1 and 2. In Frankfort, Jessica Umbro, WKYT.
Sample ballots for the November 2024 election can be found on the Kentucky Secretary of State's website, as well as on WKYT.com and inside the WKYT News app.